If you build an unshakable mind, they won't try to break you, they'll try to silence you. These are not the words of a tyrant, but the careful calculation of a man who understood human nature better than most. Machiavelli's world was not different from ours. It was full of deception, ambition, hidden enemies, and shifting alliances. To survive in such a world was not enough. One had to dominate, not through brute force alone, but through the terrifying strength of the mind. A strong mind is not loud, it is not flashy. It walks into a room and says nothing, yet everyone falls silent. It is the mind that doesn't flinch under pressure, doesn't chase validation, and never begs for acceptance. It is the mind that sees 10 moves ahead and sacrifices today's comfort for tomorrow's power. Young man, if you want to build a mind so strong it terrifies everyone, understand this. You must stop thinking like the masses. The masses react. The strong mind responds. The masses fear discomfort. The strong mind finds growth within it. The masses obey the moment. The strong mind commands the future. Machiavelli saw that power doesn't belong to the most moral or the most intelligent. It belongs to the most calculated. He wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel." This is the first law of mental dominance. Never show more than is necessary. Let others see a fragment, never the whole. Let them guess what you know. Fear is born in the unknown. This aligns with Sun Tzu's principle in the art of war. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. A terrifying mind cloaks itself in mystery. It doesn't boast. It watches. It listens. It stores energy like a coiled serpent, and when it strikes, it doesn't miss. In today's world, you are bombarded with distractions designed to dull the blade of your mind. Endless noise, empty praise, meaningless arguments. A strong mind is forged by walking away from all of it, not because you are weak, but because you are focused. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." A powerful mind knows the difference. It doesn't panic under pressure because it has trained itself to master thought. When the mind is silent, strategic, and unbothered, it becomes dangerous. Not to others directly, but to the illusions that others live by. Let's be honest. Most men today live in cages built from comfort and fear. They want results without resistance, respect without resilience. But Machiavelli knew better. He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. And command begins with the self. Young man, take this seriously. You cannot rule over your goals, your enemies, or your destiny if you do not rule over your impulses. Your thoughts shape your decisions. Your decisions shape your world. But if your thoughts are shallow, borrowed, emotional, you are already defeated before you begin. Nietzsche, the prophet of willpower, declared, "He who cannot obey himself will be commanded." Your mind must become your general, not your servant. This means rejecting the easy path, choosing solitude over cheap company, discipline over dopamine, and long-term clarity over short-term chaos. Think about your day-to-day life. Every moment you feel the urge to scroll, argue, react, escape, ask yourself, who is in control right now? You or your programming? Most men are not weak. They are simply unaware of how much power they've handed over to the world. But the terrifying mind reclaims it. Slowly, silently, strategically. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." To build a mind that terrifies, you must illuminate every dark corner of your psyche. Confront your hidden fears, your suppressed desires, your inner chaos. Not to fix them, but to integrate them. A mind that knows its shadows cannot be manipulated by others. And when others sense this within you, they do not see it directly, but they feel it in your stillness, in your clarity, in your refusal to panic when they expect you to. There will come a moment, perhaps when you're in a meeting, in an argument, or in the midst of crisis, where everyone around you breaks. Their voices rise, their thoughts scatter, but you remain calm, silent, focused. That moment is power, and that power begins now. It begins when you decide not to entertain every opinion, when you stop giving your energy to meaningless drama, When you realize that you are the gatekeeper of your mind and not a single person has access without your permission. Lao Tzu, the ancient master of Taoist thought, whispered through the ages, "He who conquers others is strong. He who conquers himself is mighty." So conquer. Not with violence, not with pride, but with discipline, strategy, and silence. Build your mind like a fortress, stone by stone, thought by thought. Let no weakness go unnoticed. Let no emotion go unexamined. And one day they will look at you and not understand why they hesitate to speak against you, why they second-guess themselves around you, why your silence speaks louder than their shouting. That is the mind Machiavelli wrote about, the mind that terrifies, not because it harms, but because it cannot be harmed, because it has mastered itself, and in doing so, it masters the world. But hear this, young man, this power will not come to you in a day or a week. This kind of mental strength is not gifted. It is earned in the shadows, built in silence, paid for with discomfort, and most of all, it is forged through the crucible of being misunderstood. You see, when you begin to build a mind so disciplined, so focused, and so detached from the noise of the world, people will fear what they cannot read. They will call you cold. They will call you arrogant. They will say you've changed. Good. That is the cost of greatness. Michel Foucault once said, "Where there is power, there is resistance." You must understand, people fear the unfamiliar. A man who cannot be controlled, who does not seek approval, who does not chase attention, he becomes a threat to the insecure. This is why building such a mind is dangerous. Not to you, but to the illusions others live in. And when illusions are threatened, people panic. They lash out. They try to pull you back to their level. But a mind that is rooted in principle cannot be moved by noise. Let me speak to your daily life for a moment. Let's say you begin your mornings in silence while others reach for their phones. You read instead of scrolling. You reflect instead of reacting. You plan instead of panicking. Now imagine doing this not once, but every day. While others are lost in arguments online, you are sharpening your thoughts. While they seek escape through entertainment, you are seeking mastery over your mind. While they build an identity on trends, you are building an identity on truth. Eventually, something strange happens. You will notice you no longer react to disrespect. You calculate. You don't rush to speak. You observe. You don't break under pressure. You adapt. And people will feel this shift. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll feel it. It's the stillness of the storm, the silence before the strike, the quiet confidence that says, "I don't need to prove anything because I am everything I need to be." Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher king, wrote in his Meditations, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." This is why chaos cannot touch a man with a calm mind, because his strength does not come from outside, fame, money, applause. It comes from within, from the unshakable roots he planted in solitude. But solitude is uncomfortable, isn't it? That's where most men give up. The moment they're alone, they run back to the crowd. They fear being with their own thoughts. They fear being judged. They fear being unseen. And that is why their minds never grow beyond the size of their environment. But if you endure solitude, true, deep solitude, it becomes your weapon. Because when you no longer need the world begins to wonder why. And the man who does not chase attention becomes the one everyone watches. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties." And this is exactly how the terrifying mind operates. It doesn't dominate through volume. It dominates through presence. A presence that speaks louder than words. A presence that says, "I am not here to be liked. I am here to become legendary." Now imagine this. You enter a room. You don't boast. You don't flex. You simply observe. You speak only when necessary. You speak clearly. You speak precisely. And then you fall silent again. The room listens. Not because you shouted, but because they sense something different, something rare, something untouchable. That's the mind we are building. That's the aura that comes from a man who has faced his weaknesses and refused to be ruled by them. Now let's get practical. What can you do today to begin this transformation? Start with your thoughts. Most men never question what they think. They simply obey the thoughts that arrive. But you, become the observer. Watch them, interrogate them. Ask, is this thought useful? Is it mine, or have I inherited it from fear, from society, from weakness? Then, guard your time. Stop leaking your energy into things that do not build you. Gossip, distractions, arguments, meaningless scrolling. These are not harmless. They are soul-deep poisons that weaken your focus and fracture your mind. And finally, build a code. Not a set of goals, not a bucket list. A code, a set of unbreakable principles. Discipline, patience, strategic silence, ruthless self-reflection, honor. These must become your law. And like Marcus Aurelius, remind yourself daily of them. Etch them into your behavior until you don't have to think about who you are, because your life screams it for you. That is how you terrify people. Not by being cruel, not by being arrogant, but by being unshakably aligned. When you reach that level, your presence becomes a mirror. People see themselves in you, and they cannot hide. The weak feel exposed, the fake feel ashamed, the unfocused feel unsettled. And that is your power. Not to control others, but to become so disciplined, so principled, so precise in thought and action that the world cannot touch you. But the path to building this terrifying mind will test you more than anything else in this world. It demands that you walk away from mediocrity and worse, from your former self. And that is a death most are too afraid to face. Søren Kierkegaard once wrote, "The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all." And that is exactly what happens to millions of men, quietly. They wake up one day and find they've lost themselves in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, and habits that numb them. Why? Because they were never taught to build themselves from the inside out. You must understand, if you don't build your mind, someone else will. Social media, trends, weak role models, shallow ideologies, they are not harmless. They are architects of your personality if you let them be. But you, if you are to be feared, if you are to be respected, not for violence but for the power of your mind, you must become your own architect. This is where the real work begins. It begins when you stop reacting emotionally to things you cannot control. When someone insults you, you no longer flare up. You smile not out of weakness, but because you see through them. You understand that only the uncontrolled respond without calculation. You must become surgical in your reactions. Seneca, the great Stoic, said, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." This is the truth that every ancient warrior, every strategic leader, every enduring philosopher lived by. Control of the self is control of the world. Let's go even deeper. You wake up tomorrow and your entire routine is designed to protect your mental fortress. The phone stays off for the first hour. You read something ancient, something timeless. You train your body, not for aesthetics, but for clarity. You write down your thoughts, not to vent, but to sharpen. Then you step into your day. You don't move emotionally, you move intentionally. Every word you speak is weighed. Every task you touch is focused. You move like a man who knows that nothing outside can disrupt the silence he has built within. Now imagine doing this for a month, then a year, then 5. People around you change. Some drift away. Others try to copy you. A few begin to fear you, not because you hurt them, but because your strength reminds them of their own fragility. This is not arrogance. This is gravity. True power does not chase, it pulls. Michel de Montaigne, the philosopher who introduced the art of self-inquiry, said, "The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself." How many men do you know who truly belong to themselves? How many men do you know who are not secretly performing for others, waiting to be told who they are? The terrifying mind doesn't wait. It doesn't perform. It creates. It decides. It chooses who it will become, and then becomes it, brick by brick, in silence. You must also learn this. Do not explain yourself. Weak minds require validation. Strong minds require clarity. Leonardo da Vinci wrote, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." When your mind is clear, your life becomes simple. You do not chase approval. You do not chase attention. You do not even chase success. You become success. And it is this becoming that terrifies others. Because most people live in the illusion that they are working on themselves, when in reality, they are simply rearranging their weaknesses. You don't do that. You cut the weakness out. And you replace it with something stronger, something eternal. You learn to love the coldness of early mornings. You learn to cherish the silence of deep thought. You learn to smile at struggle, knowing it carves a character others are too soft to develop. And above all, you learn to sit alone with your thoughts and not be afraid. Because the man who can sit alone without fear is the man who can lead others without doubt. So when they ask why you're quiet, let them wonder. When they say you've changed, let them speak. You are not building yourself to be understood. You are building yourself to be undeniable. And the mind you are crafting, day by day, will soon become the kind that walks into rooms and causes people to straighten up, fix their posture, and rethink their assumptions. Not because you said a word, but because your silence shook them more than 1,000 speeches ever could. There will come a time, and it is inevitable, when the world will test the mind you have built. You will be betrayed. You will be misunderstood. You will be laughed at, underestimated, perhaps even hated. This is the price of the path. Do not resist it. Welcome it. Because here in these moments, the true quality of your mind will be revealed. Not when everything is going well, but when the ground shakes beneath your feet and you do not flinch. As Machiavelli warned, the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. The strong mind acts with swiftness, not because it rushes, but because it is already prepared. It has rehearsed adversity in silence, visualized failure, danced with fear in the dark. So when the test comes, it does not panic, it responds. Young man, hear me now. You will not become terrifying by reading this alone. You must become a man of ruthless execution. You must marry thought with action, clarity with movement. You must act on your code even when no one is watching, especially then. Because that's where true fearlessness is born. When your actions are dictated by your principles, not by your mood. And if you want to know how to become the kind of man whose mind unsettles even the powerful, look no further than the day-to-day. Start here. When you feel insulted, pause, observe, smile inwardly, ask, what insecurity in them caused that attack? When you feel tired, push forward an inch more. Not because you must, but because it is who you are. When you feel envy, use it. Let it show you what you secretly admire. Then go build it. When you feel lonely, embrace it. Let it teach you that solitude is the training ground of kings. Most men retreat from these moments. You must run toward them. Because this is where the mind is trained. This is where you either collapse into emotion or rise into legend. Charles Bukowski, often considered a madman by society but a prophet by the broken, once said, "The problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubt, while the stupid ones are full of confidence." You must reverse this. Become intelligent and confident, humble and ruthless, quiet and calculating, still and storm. Because here's the secret the weak don't want you to know. Discipline is more powerful than talent. Focus is more powerful than intelligence. Silence is more powerful than noise. A terrifying mind doesn't just think, it outthinks. It outlasts. It doesn't win every battle, but it wins the war because it plays the long game while others chase instant rewards. Let me take you inside a single moment to show you this in action. You're in a room full of noise, people talking, laughing, trying to prove something, but you stay quiet, not shy, present. You're watching every face, every word, every insecurity hiding behind laughter. You speak only once. What you say is brief, but sharp and exact. Everyone falls silent. Why? Because your mind was prepared. Your presence wasn't just physical, it was psychological. You see, most men enter a room hoping to be seen. You must enter every room as if you own it, without ever saying you do. And this doesn't come from ego, it comes from self-mastery. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. You must awaken. You must look inward so fiercely, so honestly, that you cannot be manipulated by shame, by praise, or by fear. And when you become that man, people won't know what to do with you because they've never seen someone so quiet, yet so certain, so calm, yet so capable, so detached from approval, yet commanding every room he walks into. They'll say you're intimidating. They're right, because a mind like yours doesn't play games. It builds empires, not out of bricks, but out of thoughts, discipline, and silence. And now we arrive at the final truth. A mind that terrifies is not built for intimidation. It is built for impact, for legacy, for something so much deeper than fear, for presence, the kind of presence that outlives time, that shifts destinies, that reshapes the very air in a room. Machiavelli did not write for the faint-hearted. He wrote for rulers, for men who would rather be hated for their strength than loved for their weakness. His philosophy is not a call to cruelty, but to clarity, not to tyranny, but to dominance through wisdom, composure, and will. You, young man, are not here to fit in. You are here to transform. Let others speak loudly. You will build silently. Let others seek comfort. You will pursue growth. Let others follow trends. You will follow truth. That's what a terrifying mind does. It echoes, it haunts, it leads. Let them wonder how you became this focused. Let them guess why you don't complain, why you don't react, why you don't chase anything. Because everything seems to come to you. And when they finally ask you, how did you become this way? Smile and say, I chose not to waste my mind. Because that's the difference between the average man and the man who is feared, not because he is loud, but because his silence is full of power. You are no longer here to be seen. You are here to be remembered, not for the noise you made, but for the silence that shifted everything. This is your time. Build the mind that terrifies, then walk forward, quietly, deliberately, endlessly, and let the world feel your presence before you even speak. The world doesn't need another man who follows. It needs one who leads from within. Let your thoughts be sharp, your presence calm, and your silence louder than their noise. You don't need to force anyone to respect you. The mind you've built will demand it without speaking. This is your path now. Build the mind that terrifies, and walk it like a man who was never meant to be ordinary.